Hello, everyone. Welcome to Jamaica 411. Thank you so much for stopping by, keeping me company as usual. If you're here for the first time, welcome, welcome. Please subscribe, give this video a thumbs up, and share. For my regular viewers and subscribers, welcome back. Thank you so much for the support that you're giving to this channel. I appreciate it greatly. And of course, you know the drill, right? You're going to start by giving the video a thumbs up so that when I start, you don't want to pause to do any such thing and you may forget. So go ahead and give the video a thumbs up. Remember also to share in your groups with your friends, your families, your political friends, and your political rivals. And I thank you in advance. Okay, now down to business. What have I got for you today? Well, I am going to be telling you about what the Gleaner is saying about the conference, the PNP's annual conference. Today is a public session. It's already started some minutes ago. And I want you to hear what the pundits and the analysts thinks is going to happen. I told you about what I think. Now you're going to hear what they think and what they think Golding needs to do to make this thing, the conference is really about what the message will be for the year. And this one may well be the final public conference. If the election is called before the time, it will probably be the final conference before the next election. As a matter of fact, we are certain that it will be the final conference because the next election is due September of next year. So, let me tell you what the Gleaner is saying. The headline in the Gleaner today was Analysts. So the Analysts now, they are saying that Golding faces destiny-defining PNP conference. That's so ominous to fall, ET. Let's hear what them have to say about it. All right. So the Gleaner is saying, by the way, the picture that you're seeing, that's when Mark arrived at the PNP's annual conference last year, September. So they say here, with no overseas guests set to address the public session of the People's National Party 86th Annual Conference today, President Mark Jefferson Golding will take the spotlight. Now, the guests overseas, those would be like prime ministers and so on. Occasionally, I'm told that when there is a special occasion, usually there will a prime minister from another country will come. But it has been a feature since PJ's presidency that quite a number of overseas dignitaries would travel in, prime ministers, deputy prime ministers, persons who are representing their government to come and have a word with the comrades, especially of parties that would be socialist parties that would be considered a sister party of the PNP, whether in the Caribbean, in Africa. And of course, many would remember the year when Samora Machel, who was the president of Mozambique, came to the PNP's annual conference. He died on his way back home when his plane was shot down, they suspect, by the apartheid government of South Africa. So they're saying that this year there will be no guests. If I recall correctly, last year, that young prime minister of one of the islands, very, very young fellow, if I recall, his finance minister was here and he addressed the comrades at the conference. Before that, you had a message from Ralph Gonsalves, a prime minister of one of the islands, and so on. But this year, there will be no guests to address the public session. And I wonder at that, because when you look at Mark's low-keyed conference, which is supposed to be the mother of all conferences for the year, set aside, only that conference can be held on that day. All the other conferences must be completed, and on that particular day, usually the week before the annual conference, that is the president's conference. No other conference will be arranged on that day. and the party bigwigs are expected to be there. For some odd reason, he claimed that because of Beryl and the sufferation of people, he wanted it to be low-key. So what he decided to do is to have his private session, and after the private session, a few speakers would then address the comrades. That's what he said. There is no reason why all 14, well, to be 13 MPs, or some number of them at any rate, should not be present. Why the 8 senators were not present, and all the other caretaker candidates were present. If nobody else is not present, they should at least be present. Instead, what you have instead were 3 of the MPs present and 2 of the senators. You had Angela Brown-Burke, who is the chairman of the party. You had Fitz Jackson, and you had Tony Hilton, right? Angela and Tony and Mark are from the same camp. They are under the Rise tent, the big tent. Fitz Jackson isn't. He's a PNP. You had at the conference also Raymond Price. Raymond Price is the MP candidate for East Central St. Catherine. You had Patricia Duncan Sutherland. She is the candidate, MP candidate for the PNP at East St. Andrew Eastern. You had the guy Peter King. He is supposed to be running against Juliet Holness in East Rural St. Andrew, and you may have had 1 or 2 more. Then you had some councillors. You had the mayor of Kingston and St. Andrew, the mayor of Kingston, and you had several former councillors. So in that room, that very scanty room, you had a lot of persons who were councillors and former councillors, and then you had the people at the head table, and then the other few now would be the people from Jungle and from Arnett Gardens and wherever else they're coming from in that room. That don't look good at all for the finale. I am told that final President's Conference is supposed to be the mobilizing conference for the annual conference. That is where you go and speak up the things then that is going to get the comrades to say, yeah man, Mark I go talk about this, or yeah man, PNP go deal with that, and they want to come. As it is now, those persons who turn up will be turning up because it's what they have been doing every year. Conference can't miss me. As long as they're alive, conference can't miss me. And that is not good enough, because you do have some that are not in that category. And if you don't, people don't like waste some time. So if you don't tell them something and some reason why they should come, they won't turn up. So if you see the people turn up, it will be because they're in the habit of coming to conference, right? You will have some who will come because of the candidates. They love them candidate and they want to support the candidate. The candidates go out and they're the ones who are supposed to be mobilizing the people at the divisional level and the constituency level, arranging for buses to take them into Kingston from the rural areas. And those who are in the city, they still arrange for vehicles to carry them to the conference. How well they mobilize is what will determine the capacity of the arena, if it is full up and overflowing. They have not been doing too badly, despite the fact that they have a handicap for a party leader. And when I say handicap, I mean the man have a whole heap of problems, not very liked, not really a politician, not about representation and all the likes. However, Let me go back to what the Gleaner is saying now and what the analysts are saying. I just went into my little thing that I usually go into. So, the fact that there is no overseas guests may take a little shine off the conference, especially when you consider that there is a president, Mark Golding, who is not really, him not drawing nobody to any conference, you know. So it will take a little shine from the conference. Anyway, the Gleaner went on to say, because there's no guest speaker from abroad, President Mark Jefferson Golding will take the spotlight. This event might be the final major gathering of this magnitude before the next election. And while the party is calling it Golding's Moment, so that is the byline now, Golding's Moment, and it's a party that is calling it that, not the Gleaner. And while the party is calling it Golding's Moment, analysts argue that it's more than just a notable occasion, it's a pivotal one. So let's hear why they say that. Just shy of 4 years since becoming leader, it is also Golding's first annual conference leading into a general election. Somebody is quoting now. The spotlight is entirely on the party leader. Firstly, it is his conference, then the Comrades Conference, and together it's Jamaica's conference. This is an election conference for the PNP. This election will not go full term to September 2025. PNP General Secretary Dr. Dayton Campbell told the Gleaner on Friday night following the completion of the first of 2 days of private sessions. You heard that? So Dayton Campbell is predicting that the government will not go the full term. So the election going to be called before it's due in September 2025. That's what he's saying. I mean, please. When was the last time we had a government go to full term? It was in 1989. No government after that, as far as I can recall, went to the full term. The party leader will be articulating his vision and some plans, bearing in mind that many plans executed by the current Jamaica Labour Party government were PNP manifesto ideas. So we are careful what will be shared, but he is very aware of the political climate and that the country is in full political campaign mode, Campbell said. While not revealing any details about the nature of Golding's message for today, I want you to pay attention to that. He's supposed to be coming out with a message. That is what leaders usually do in their speech. The General Secretary said that it was intended for the entire nation. All right. So those were the views of Lloyd B. Smith. Let's hear what trade unionist Helene Davis White, who is PNP or a sympathizer, but she's not that type of PNP. She will tell you what it is, the time of day. She'll tell you what the time of day is. Anyway, they say here, trade unionist Helene Davis White agrees with much of Smith's views, but offered her own advice. I understand why the party would put the focus on Golding, remember they say it's Golding's moment, given the political climate and the results coming out of the local government elections. They didn't win, but they are clearly more united and would have been pleased with the results of the local government elections under his leadership. Persons felt that he could not have taken the party far, but the results proved them wrong. So I think he is now fully solidified and established in that position as leader, she told the Sunday Gleaner. That is, of course, until the next election. It is on that basis that Davis White believes the party has made the right decision to focus on the leader and present him as someone who can deliver a victory for the general election, which she too believes is very close. The PNP has only won once in 4 general elections since 2007. The polls are due every 5 years, but since 2007, all have been held early. The JLP is in its second term since 2016, and the next polls are constitutionally due in less than a year. So according to Helene, So he cannot only speak to the members, but to the country as well, especially remembering that the PNP's conference comes before the JLP's. I think they must put the ruling party on the defensive in terms of what he and the PNP have to offer. He has to go close to presenting a manifesto. It is a big opportunity or moment for the leader and party, the trade unionist suggested. Going forward, Golding must become prime ministerial and appeal to more uncommitted voters, whose numbers have been steadily rising as many shift to non-voters, Davis White said, noting that many teenagers would have come into adulthood knowing only a JLP government in power, similar to what obtained in the PJ Patterson years when the PNP ruled from 1989 to 2007. In 2020, only 37% of Jamaicans voted in the election, which was held at the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. Davis White said more Jamaicans must come off the wall and become involved in the process, noting that the continuous disengagement is a danger to democracy. So the final words from Helene Davis White: so they cannot afford to slip, or they will slide, as they have no largesse to give. They must demonstrate in tangible ways they will be different from the JLP, both in philosophy and with governance, she suggested. So what is she saying? Basically, she's saying, Mark can't just go out there go cuss and talk about Nigel gone and him abandon ship and the whole of them leave the JLP, them the little something there. He has to show in what way the PNP is different from the Jamaica Labour Party, what they are bringing to the table. So I'm going to have to talk about not broad things about education, about crime, you just a talk. I'm going to have to come with some policies, some little hints. They saying, boy, we don't want to come with no hint because the Labour right them out teeth it. Because some of what them doing now, we then teeth it from. If I were here, I wouldn't open my mouth and say that. Because if the people in the country are saying that nothing now go on for them, and you go talk about, say, some of what the Labour right them do, are you're something them, that means to say that you're something them not working. So I don't know if that is something you should be out there saying. But Helene White is saying him have to look the part of a prime minister. God, what a pressure them put on poor Mark. Him have to come out there and give the people something philosophical, meaning the way of thinking, how the party is thinking and how they are going to govern the country, right? Them can't just come with just words now. Them have to come with specifics. That's what she's saying. Let us now hear what Dr. Paul Bourne said. His heading is Philosophical Puzzle. Political scientist Dr. Paul Bourne believes that the PNP and its leader are in a difficult position, philosophically struggling to define themselves. He, Golding, needs to define himself and determine what the PNP base wants and deliver that. He needs to deliver a manifesto that not only resonates with the PNP, but the general public. He is not a charismatic or transformational person by virtue of his personality. All of those things will be a problem for him, suggested the university lecturer. Bourne said an announcement days ago that Wholeness now holds a doctorate and the holding of nomination day for the St. Ann Northeastern by-election in the week leading up to the PNP's conference showed a clear strategy to take some of the spotlight from Golding and the PNP. He goes on to say, what you have is a JLP fighting for the academic class, one which heavily supports the PNP. The academic class will never slaughter their own, and even if they disagree, they would rather not say anything. Wholeness moving into that rank, as are several other JLP politicians also doing doctoral studies, is a political genius by his handlers to split the academic base, which has strongly supported the PNP. So, the announcement was a genius political campaign move. Plus, He is a bit more confident and charismatic despite the political baggage of alleged corruption, which defines several years of his administration, Bourne argued. The problem the PNP is having is trying to redefine itself. It cannot call itself socialist or capitalist, as its history and base bore the brunt of the political trauma and economic destabilization between 1976 and 80, when it was declared democratic socialist. The PNP can't utter those words or even insinuate their thoughts, and that has frustrated its academia support for years. That is a big part of Golding's problem. So he's saying that the academia, those persons who are, at university and so on, those, what they are called thinkers, big tank thinkers that they call them. Yes, I believe so. They are largely PNP because they are largely socialists. That is why he said that they were frustrated by the fact that the PNP cannot call itself anymore, in public anyway, a socialist party. But then again, he's saying that's exactly what the PNP base and the PNP members and supporters consider themselves, socialists. So they are between a rock and a hard place. They can't say them not socialist anymore because that will affect the party's membership and also the academia, and at the same time, them dare not call themselves capitalist, right? For the same reasons. Golding, an experienced businessman, cannot sell capitalism as it will wipe out the party's base, who are largely socialists, and will invoke the political wrath of external forces if he goes liberal. That is very true. So these two capitalists, Mark Golding and Peter Bunting, their plot was to come into the PNP and take it over and make it into their own. Using their money, they thought they could buy their way, I suppose, in making the comrades into capitalists, seeing the benefit of earning money while working for the party. But the People's National Party's roots has always been socialist. The party started in 1938 out of all that chaos that was going on with the labor and the labor movements. And there were no political parties in Jamaica at that time. What you had was a National Assembly and you had parish representatives. There were no organized political parties, no political organization at all. So those persons who were elected to the assembly from the parishes, they had no unity of policies on which to pursue. So even though they wanted self-government, one and two may want it and the rest don't. So it was because of that that Marcus Garvey saw the solution to the problem as having a party. He started his People's Political Party on September 9, 1929. Well, that failed. And then the People's National Party came. And this time around, Norman decided what he's going to do is not contest any election until there were universal adult suffrage. And that we were able to gain in 1944. But when the People's National Party started in 1938, and believe it or not, Buster was a member of the PNP before they sent him to jail. And when he came back out in 43, you know the drill, right? Okay, he formed his own party as part of the agreement for his being let out of jail by the colonial authorities. So in 1938, the PNP started. By 1940, at the annual conference, the PNP was declared a socialist party. That has been its roots until 74, when Michael Manley declared the party a democratic socialist party, probably to soften it up a bit because people had these angst. There was so much propaganda by the capitalist countries about the socialist countries that a lot of people were fearful of it. They think that when they go and earn their money, the government is going to take it away from them and give it to somebody else who's not working. So the propaganda against socialism was working at that time. So for them now to come, these two capitalists, trying to see if they can make the PNP into, their own capitalist version, right? That is something that they have failed to do so far. They try to change the philosophy of the party from democratic socialism to what they call democratic left. Now, democratic left is not a recognized political philosophy or political system. There is no definition around it. You have the communism, right? You have the Leninist, you have Marxism, you have Stalinism, and all them kind of thing there, right? But democratic left does not exist. Democratic left was the name of a political party in Ireland that went defunct. Democratic left is the name of a magazine. If you go on Google now, you see it's the name of a magazine, I think, in the United States. But if you were to put what does democratic left mean, you don't see a meaning. So what and why did they choose the idea of democratic left? It was their generalship. You see them think them smarter than everybody else. And it was their idea, by using a term which no one else has defined, these two words put together, they could then put their own definition on it, right? And then you'd find that their definition is one of a mixed economy, where you have the private sector and then you have the government making regulations for the private sector, but the government would have a minimal participation in the economy. That is exactly what a capitalist society is. So they were cleverly trying to use the word left to give the comrades the impression that it's a socialist party. Oh, we can't use socialism because when people hear about socialism, then we get frightened and we're not going to get any money. It's all about money, right? Them think it's all about money for the comrades. And let's call it democratic left. And then they defined it, just as I just told you. A mixed economy where the private sector is there and the government is there. Government role in that economy of the democratic left is that they make regulations for the private sector and they have a minimal role. Describing a capitalist society like the United States. Trying to bring in capitalism through the back door. Well, we did in the resistance, we did a video days before when we get the information and alerted the comrades that is a 3-card trick and them never make a fun to turn up. Both risers and PNP alike turn up at that private session when they had it, and 90% of them voted it down. My understanding is so that was that, and they never brought it up again. Never. Mark Golding stopped using it in his tweets and his posts on Facebook. So this is why Dr. Bourne is saying that these two capitalists, are between a rock and a hard place. They come in with for them agenda, right? What is that agenda? To get rid of that socialist party. $650 million was what Bunting spent to wrest the party from Peter Phillips and take it over. Eventually, that's exactly what they did. They were able to hoodwink the delegates to give them the party, and now they are trying very hard to execute that agenda that they came with. And their first objective is to get rid of socialism, get rid of the Socialist Party and the socialist policies of the PNP. Get rid of the Socialist Party, and then you have two capitalist parties competing for power. The PNP membership told them no. And what Dr. Bourne is saying is that the academia class to which he belongs is totally against it. So they are going to be going into a general election on a socialist platform, the two capitalists. I wonder if you understand what it is Dr. Bourne is saying. The two capitalists who come in here to get their turn at the trough, to enrich themselves, now find themselves in the position where They cannot tell the people what it is that they are doing. Whatever it is that they're going to do, they can't tell the people. So they're hoping to hoodwink their way into Jamaica House. But based upon recent history, where the people are inclined to pitch out the government in 4 years or 5 years after the first term, right? They have to come good. They're going to have to come good if the people are going to replace Brogard with them. So what the analysts are saying here is that them just can't come talk about how Andrew this and Andrew that, right? And about the Integrity Commission and about crime. They're going to have to actually say what it is that they will do. And they better say it, because tomorrow I will be on them case. So will Natalie and the GPU family. So will Karen Cross. And so will everybody else. So let me go listen to what them have to say at the conference, and I will catch you guys later. Thank you for joining me today. Take good care of yourselves and walk good.